afternoon, guys. This is Eric Leclerc representing Push Press, and we are continuing our series on In the Trenches, discussing the topic of both leadership and discipline. And I am super privileged to have an old friend, Jeremy Jones, on. And I'm so impressed to watch his evolution from coach and owner from the days of Diablo or CrossFit Diablo, now into Thrivestry, chief programming architect, is that right? Did I get it right?
Yep.
Right. Jeremy, go ahead. For those that are watching today who may not know you, I'd be surprised if they don't, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I started CrossFit in 2004. I was working as an engineer and competing in MMA and coaching martial arts. And I found this thing, and it hurt so bad when I first did it. I had to do more of it because when you're a fighter, it's like, ow, ooh, show me that again. And got sucked in, and a few years, or about a year or two later, I started an affiliate in my backyard. It was one of the first 50 or first 100 affiliates. We used to go down to Santa Cruz and train with Glassman and Coach Glassman and Lauren and everybody. And then I had started my own little gig, went to the park, went to a small gym, eventually grew to multiple locations. Our biggest one had 1,000 members.
Wow.
Did that for a long time. Yeah, we had 28 classes a day at that one location.
Wow, that could be an entire other episode on organizational leadership.
Yeah, and I had a great partner, Craig Howard, and we went to the games, and my team podiumed at the games. I had athletes, Alessandra Bocelli started at my gym. I was her first competitive coach, and other people had masters get on the podium, and I was really plugged into the competition side. I was also the head coach for the fire team, grid team, for the grid league. And so just got really plugged into the competition side. And this whole time I was doing gym programming. And so I sort of built up a reputation for creating intelligent, not total crush you workouts that actually work for lots of a diverse population of people. So
Right.
People started asking me for it. So we started selling it, back in like 2011. I never really intended on it. I just intended to. I just get it from our blog or whatever, but people wanted it. Fast forward to about 4 years ago. And my partner and I decided it was time to move on. One of us was going to move on, or the other one was going to stay. What I determined was, he wanted to kind of stay in the fitness industry, and he didn't really have any other options if he sold. I wanted to stay in the fitness industry, but I had this growing business of helping gyms and helping coaches be better. And so I took the clients that we had, and I created Thrivestry, and then that blew up. And for me personally, I like the ability to help even more people, right? So using the internet, I can reach far more people and help people with their programming, and so that really motivates me.
So is Thrivestry then programming only, or do you do mentorship, like gym owner mentorship?
So we do. I see it is one and the same, right? So one of the core things that I've realized in all these years of in thousands and thousands of classes I've coached. In fact, from a programming perspective, I have been programming 7 days a week since 2006. So we took turns in 2005, and I've never missed a day. I've never copied and pasted programming, and so that what is that? It's, 5,000 posts at least, right? Or lesson plans. And one of the things I started to realize is, and I just did a social media post about this recently, we can argue all day long about movements in the gym and biology in the lab and diet and all these things. It doesn't matter. The real work that needs to be done in the fitness world is between the ears, right?
Great.
And that there's so many people, debating these topics, which may or may not be right, or even or not important if you're not getting people to show up and do the work, right? That's the most important thing. And so a lot of my education and mentoring is around psychology and habits and motivation and interpersonal skills. And so so a lot of my private articles and content for subscribers only really drives that point home. And I think one of the things I put out recently is I had a subscriber only series of courses to help people get into the online coaching business, because I've done some of that myself, and I know some of the hurdles and some of the ways to implement it in a gym. And I just decided, because of everything that's going on, I put it all into a PDF. It ended up being like 30 pages, over an hour of videos. all these other links and tools and forms you can use. And I just put it out for free. It was like, look, just download this and hopefully you get something out of it,
Man, that had to be, for coaches, a gold mine to find in this right place and right time. I definitely don't want to jump ahead, but I would want to say you were lucky enough to have had a solid set of SOPs, implementation, the structure to handle something like this now downturn, because you're fully digital now, right? There's no more brick and mortar for you, correct?
No, yeah, yeah. So I sold off the most of our locations and I kept one. And then I did that for another year or two, just so I had kind of one foot in the door and I still could experiment and, shoot videos and stuff. And then I sold that to another partner. I had a different partner at that gym. And then, so I'm completely virtual now.
Wow. So, I mean, the pivot that all these gym owners are having to struggle with today, you have been seamless in being able to deliver value and content and support to your clients that are part of your culture today. Were there any principles or any leadership principles, leadership values that you took from a different part of your life or that you built over time with all the companies you've worked with and for that have helped form you as the guiding light of your company? Or have you evolved over time?
I have a unique kind of a unique history in the fact that I went to a military academy, the Maritime Academy, and got a mechanical engineering degree. Then I worked as a mechanical engineer, all the same time while doing martial arts and having that sort of Eastern philosophy combined with sort of the logical engineer mind, and also being a follower of Jesus. I'm a Jesus dude, and so I have all these kind of moving parts, and people say I'm pretty artistic, and so I'm like kind of like a man of many hats, so to speak, so I what I like to do is look at the bigger principles and bigger picture things, and look at the how they interrelate and the similarities. And so that I think has really helped me, develop over time. And I'm always developing. That's what when you work toward getting your black belt or I remember having this specific moment. I was sitting in differential equations 2. So, that's after calculus, that's after everything. I'm sitting here and it had dawned on me. I'm like, this is like first grade math for a mathematician, right? Like I am just starting the journey of math. And I realized, and it was like a black belt. Like when you're a white belt or an orange belt, you don't have any idea how much farther you have, right? And then just realizing that everything in the world is like that. And just to always be a student and always be learning, I think. And that's something that I'm always trying to teach people, constantly trying to help and teach people and get people in that growth mindset.
That obviously has been significantly powerful for the affiliates that you've helped or the gym owners that you've helped or even the coaches that you've either groomed. And I think that's an impressive statement to look at not only the rich history that is your story, but the ability for you to create other amazing gym owners and coaches and trainees and, staff members or interns and so on. Obviously who you are today, you've built up over time. And so if you were to think back to giving a brand new coach some advice in this moment, in this time, think back to the original level 1 CrossFit coach or the original level 1 weightlifting coach, or even a personal trainer who's trying to develop his or her brand. Any message for them or any thoughts to them on leadership, discipline, organization? What could you shed, or what kind of light could you shed for them?
Well, I'm working on an article right now, and I'll summarize it here. And it involves Jesus and webcam girls. So
awesome. I love it.
And so we're in a very unique time. The funny thing is all of this stuff could have happened. This online training stuff could have happened, and people were already moving into this space before this. But now we're all having to do it. But this principle, I learned it, from a pastor friend of mine, and it's relationship and challenge. And I have a video on it, but it's basically, imagine a matrix. So up and down is the amount of relationship that you have with somebody, and then horizontally is challenge. And I wish I don't have my markers nearby, but I could draw it. But basically, what Jesus said, follow me, I will make you fishers of men. And all throughout the Bible, he talks about, and whenever he does things, he always engages with people on their level first and has that empathy. Empathy is one of the most important tools we have as coaches, is being able to understand where people are at and then deliver things on their level, right? Whether that's more challenge or to back off. And so you build that relationship first, and then you can start issuing more and more challenge. So what happens is if you don't have the relationship high on the graph and it's low, and you start moving them into challenge, they're going to be burned out or frustrated. Yep. Right? If you have high relationship and you have no challenge, then people are bored, right? They're not being challenged.
Elsewhere for another whatever.
Yeah. And they're not willing to necessarily pay for your services or whatever. But when you kind of hit that sweet spot, you have to start with the relationship, and then you can start challenging them more. So this is one of the things that we talk about with gyms that are doing Mad Lab and stuff, and why I kind of got plugged in with them pretty early on, was because they found that by building the relationship with the clients, especially like on those initial one-on-one sessions that they do, clients they can tolerate a lot more challenge, whether that's challenge in the gym or challenge changing their habits outside of the gym, like diet and sleep, or having to work out at home. And this is a huge challenge.
Working out at home is just another variation of challenge. Now it's just maybe less convenient, or maybe it's an inconvenience because the kids are home. But if they're wired to take on challenge, they just adapt, right?
Yeah, and they're willing to do what their coach asks of them, and they're willing to not put their membership on hold because they have that relationship first, right? And so that's probably the most important thing as a coach to realize, is that you have to kind of build this bond first before you start asking for more stuff, for them to do more things like train by themselves, or work out with less equipment or whatever. And so the coaches that have done that are doing fine right now, especially coaches. I know a lot of the Mad Lab coaches are their clients go on trips, and they just keep them motivated and give them programming and workouts
on the trip.
Yeah, and it's just like right now, their whole client book is on a trip. Now they have to shift a lot of their interactions a lot more online, because they're used to seeing people regularly. That's how you build a relationship.
Right.
But now they're doing all online. But most of them they've lost a few. Like I think the count was like less than 10% of like all the gyms, have had people put stuff on hold, and usually that's because someone lost a job.
Right. They're through financial hardship.
Yeah. And so usually you work with them because you have a relationship with that person, right?
Right. I mean, if you've taken the time to develop the relationship, then you can empathize for the situation and obviously be creative, and not just be like, all right, you're out, later. Get out of here.
Yeah. And how this ties in with the webcam girls. So I don't know if you guys know what webcam girls are. It's what I used to do in a previous life. No, I'm just kidding. So there's an
industry, by the way, webcam girls and Jesus. That's what it's going to be called.
Yeah, exactly. And so I saw, I think it was a Vice documentary about this. I didn't know any of this stuff existed, and I found it fascinating. Well, like the adult industry has had a real problem right now, the production studios, because everything's online. There's pirating, and there's all these amateur stuff, and they can't compete. And one of the things that's really, really hammering them is that the live people can do live interactions with these people, and you got to wonder, like, okay, well, why are people willing to pay so much more money to just to have a live interaction? It's the same thing with doing workout videos at home, or working out by yourself. We see those parallels, and the people who make the most money are the ones that engage in develop relationships, right? So that it's like a virtual girlfriend experience. And so, yeah, and they pay a lot of money to get into little private rooms and have conversations. And from what I understand, a lot of times it's not even like weird stuff. It's like these are just normal people, and a lot of times they just want someone to talk to and open up to, right? That they feel close to. And those are the
article, by the way, on this. It's gonna be a great article.
Yeah, and it's and it's but again, it goes back to that relationship piece. And it's funny how myself and a lot of the other experts have been saying this for years, and then people will argue, well, you can't sell community. Community is not important. You don't want your coaches to you don't want your clients to get too attached to a particular coach, and that can be bad if the coach leaves and things like that. And it's like, well,
yeah.
Yeah, and there is drawbacks to that, but if you have the right systems in place, makes it much less of an issue. And if you have the right, compensation structure and you're taking care of that coach, they're much less likely to leave. And so again, that minimizes
Do
that
you want to
risk.
do you want to talk to that, seeing as how we're discussing like organizational leadership or structural organization of how gyms are going to survive this and thrive? Can you speak to the efficacy briefly of MadLab and your role there?
Yeah, so I've actually taken a lesser role because Thrivestry got so big, but I came on as sort of the head of coach development, and so really mentoring these coaches and how to administer that program. And for those of you guys who don't know, the MadLab model is a coach will have every client that comes to the gym is assigned a coach, and that person will usually do 5 to 20 personal training sessions before they're allowed to class. And that's partially for technical but mostly for relationship, right? So you really get to know that person and you can really bond with them. And then they start going to classes, and then they have regular one-on-one meetings. On top of the classes to tailor their programming, but really again, just to confirm that relationship. And so they call that a hybrid model, where it's one-on-one plus plus all the group classes. So they can go to anyone else's group classes and they come on their schedule. And really it's the job of the coach to just coach enough classes so they can see all their people 2 or 3 times a week. And then all week long they're hitting all their people. The goal is to work up to where you have 40, 50, 60 clients. And then there's a tiered pay structure, which is a percent of what the client pays. So just for easy math, let's say, this person's paying $200 for a membership, and that coach could make up to 50%, depending on all those other specific details. The coach would collect $100, and the gym would collect $100, and that motivates the coach to retain the clients.
Yep, solid.
And bring new clients in, right? And keep the gym healthy and growing.
So that's a recruitment incentive. There's a retention incentive, and in the middle is the relationship.
And exactly, and it takes away the requirement for floor hours, right? So now we can have coaches coaching, personal training and classes combined, 20 to 25 hours a week. More than that, it leads to burnout, and it can be hard to sustain for long term. It can be done in short sprints, but then they can spend the rest of their work time doing social media and following up with people remotely and all those sort of things. And
awesome.
so it's a great model. It's hard to implement, right? It's hard to shift a whole culture when you have 100 or 200 clients that came on just doing classes, and they're like, I came to classes, I'm fine. Why do I need to do one-on-one training now? You got to tell them, hey, look, for every one person here right now, there's 5 or 6 that tried it and couldn't make it because they felt overwhelmed, right? They got challenged without the relationship. They got too much challenge and they failed. And I feel bad as a coach not being able to help those people. It wasn't money, it wasn't schedule, it was just too hard for them. And in order to help more people, we need to do these one-on-ones. And really, like you said, if people are coming to the gym 3 times a week, like that's great, but the real work is when they're outside of the gym. Well, how do you teach them that stuff and hold them accountable? And that's what the coach for life does, is they hold them accountable. They give them, goals and tasks and routines to work through, and not just to make sure they're showing up at the gym, which is kind of like, oh yeah, of course you are. It's also all those other lifestyle habits that really make people have better lives.
I love it. I totally love it. I mean, we've been obviously in the same circles for such a long time. It's so impressive to see these principles play out in real life and impact gym owners, impact coaches, and most importantly, impact the clients. And it's a win all the way around, coach, client, and the company. I dig it. I totally dig it.
And one of the reasons why a light bulb went off when I started hearing about them and I met them was I, in the martial arts world that I came from, I happened to train at a studio that was the lineage of one of the first professional martial arts studios to open in the United States, the Tracy's Karate Studios. And they were under someone named Ed Parker. But in like the 50s, they started doing martial arts schools. At their peak, I think they had 225 privately owned locations. So this is not a franchise. This is not an affiliate model. That's like one person owning 250 affiliates.
Wow.
And no single entity has done that in the time since. They're all franchises or whatever.
Right.
And so they were able to grow all these and test all these different business models. And what they found was a half-hour personal training once a week in unlimited group classes, which is basically the Mad Lab model, right? But that doesn't stop there. They got the idea from Arthur Murray Dance Studios.
I love it.
Arthur Murray has been around 100 years, teaching people how to do waltz and the tango. And that's what they do. They do a half-hour private session, and it's all about the relationship. And the story that I was told was when it dawned on them, they were at his wife went to Arthur Murray, and they went to a banquet, and they had it was 1,000 people or hundreds of people in this big banquet hall, and had everyone stand up. And they said, okay, if you've been training with Arthur Murray for more than 5 years, stay standing up. Everyone else sit down. And half the room sits down. And then they say, okay, more than 10 years, stay standing up. And some more people sit down. More than 15 years, 20 years, and there were still people standing up. They'd been with the same instructor learning how to dance for 20 plus years. And that was when it just sort of dawned on them. It's about that relationship side. And the reason why I bring that story up was the 1973 oil embargo. So in 1973, there was an oil embargo, and there was not enough gasoline, and we were over consuming it, like using it to heat our homes and everything. But people had to wait in line for hours to get gas. There was where they could only go on certain days based upon your license plate number, and at the time that actually caused a huge economic problem, obviously. And but for all these small gyms, all these martial arts studios, people had to decide: do I drive to work, or do I go drive to the gym? And so it caused a lot of gyms to shut down. But they were able to get through that, Arthur Murray and the Tracy Studios, because they had the relationship.
Sure, that makes sense. So fast forward to 2020, here we are facing our, say, generation's first ever quarantine, mass shutdown, stay-at-home orders, safer-at-home orders, and we're gonna see gyms affected by this. We're going to see people that didn't have quality relationships in place. They didn't have good leadership characteristics or care and empathy in place, and the client is going to disappear.
Yeah, because if the client was only paying for using the equipment and having kind of a fun experience with other people, then they're not going to see the benefit to keep paying when they don't have access to that. They're going to want to go on hold or cancel.
So that, I guess, could maybe be the exact same message, because I mean, the last piece that we want to jump off on is always to the struggling gym owner today, the affiliate owner, the head coach, maybe even the program director in the gym space. For those people that are struggling, for the individuals that are very close to either packing up and saying, I can't do this anymore, what singular message to them would you drive home?
Well, I would say that you have to reach out to your people and build that relationship now, right? Or have your coaches do it. Assign everyone a person and they already have some sort of relationship with, and start checking in on them and just seeing how they're doing, and then giving them workout specific to them, maybe a little bit, so they feel like they're getting that value and that customization and accountability. And I talk a lot about that in my mentoring program I put out online. But that's really what we're providing, is that customization and accountability that's lacking in most CrossFit classes, when you have a class.
Right.
And so if we can do that, then you'll save a lot of clients, right? And even gain some. And I think going forward, one of the ways to look at this is that this is going to cause a huge enema. It's going to clean out a lot of bad gyms, or gyms that people were just doing it. They were looking for an excuse to get out, maybe.
Right.
And they're going to be like, well, yeah, I had a gym. It was that coronavirus thing happened, and then, I had to shut down, maybe because they were already looking for an out. And
right.
So if you can make it through this, there's going to be a lot of people looking for gyms. And now you're also going to have an online component to your business, which isn't dependent on your brick and mortar, which means you can have more memberships and help more people. And I think that's what we should be looking forward to.
Man, I sincerely and wholeheartedly agree. There's so many opportunities being presented for the coaches to just sit back and either play the victim, the woe is me, it's external reasons why I'm failing. No, we got to turn the fingers back around. But I sincerely appreciate both your the time that you've spent, the education that you've shared, and also, of course, the journey. Where we publish this, by all means, feel free. You can take it from here, and you can share it to your community. We will we'll jump off recording here in a second, but man, thanks.